do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Bum, 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 bum. Do, 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 do. Dun, 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 dun. Da 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 da. Dun 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 dun. Da 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 da. Dun 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 dun. Da 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 da. Dun 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 dun. Da 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 da. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. I'm here to speak to you about covenant tonight and the journey of covenant, walking into the covenant. I'm going to start at Exodus chapter 2 and verse 23 and move on from there. Now it happened in the process of time that the king of Egypt died, and the children of Israel groaned because of their bondage, and they cried out, and their cry came up to God because of the bondage. So God heard their groaning, and God remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. And God looked upon the children of Israel, and God acknowledged them. The covenant of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Now, the covenant was a covenant, a promise that God would be the God of Israel, that they would be with their God, with the real God, with the God of today, that these people would be with God of Israel, and they would be his people, and that nations would be formed out of these people. Abraham would be the father of many nations, and that they would have a promised land of Israel, and that they would acquire this promise of this land, a place where they could be with God, to serve and worship God alone. And that's all the people wanted, was to be with this God, to be with this God, to be with this God today. And that's what they were groaning about, their bondage. They cried out. They were still groaning because they wanted to be with their God, and they didn't want the hardships that came with life. So God heard their groaning, and God remembered his covenant, and looked upon the children of Israel, and God acknowledged them. Chapter 3. Now Moses was tending the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian, and he led the flock to the back of the desert and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. And the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire from the midst of the bush. So he looked, and behold, the bush was burning with fire. Now the angel of the Lord, every time is talked about in the Old Testament scriptures, for us as Christians, we usually acknowledge it as Jesus. Jesus was the angel of the Lord that appeared in a flame of fire from the midst of the bush. So he looked, and behold, the bush was burning with fire, but the bush was not consumed. And then that usually represents a bush burning with fire, but not consumed. It represents those that are on fire with God, with His supernatural fire upon us, the Spirit fire that we're just have burning us, but we're not consumed by it. Like, there's a fear of the Lord where we fear the Lord and we're consumed by the fear of the Lord, but we're not burned by it. We're not burned by His fire, like He protects us. Then Moses said, I will now turn aside. It was a balloon that popped out of nowhere. I will now turn aside and see this great sight, why the bush does not burn. So when the Lord saw that he turned aside to look, God called to him from the midst of the bush and said, Moses, Moses. And he said, Here I am. So the Lord got his attention, and then he said, Moses, Moses. And he said, Here I am. Then he said, Do not draw near this place. Take off your sandals, for this place is holy, holy ground. And he said, I am the Lord God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And Moses hid his face, and he was afraid to look upon God. And the Lord said, I have surely seen the oppression of my people who are in Egypt, and have heard their cry because of their taskmasters, for I know their sorrows. So I have come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them up from the land to a good and large land, to a land flowing with milk and honey, to the place of the Canaanites and the Hittites and the Amorites and the Perizzites and the Hivites and the Jebusites. Now, therefore, behold, the cry of the children of Israel has come to me, and I have also seen the oppression with which the Egyptians oppress them. Come now, therefore, and I will send you to Pharaoh, and you may bring my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. And Moses said to God, Who am I, that I should go to Pharaoh, and that I should bring the children of Israel out of Egypt? And he said, I will certainly be with you, and this shall be a sign to you that I have sent you. When you have brought these people out of Egypt, you shall serve God on this mountain. Then Moses said to God, Indeed, when I come in the children of Israel and say to them, The God of your fathers have sent me to you, and they say to me, What is his name? What shall I call him? And God said to Moses, I am who I am. So he said, I am who I am. That's what you should call me. And he said, Thus you shall say to the children of Israel, I am has sent me to you. Moreover, God said to Moses, Thus you shall say to the children of Israel, The Lord God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob, has sent me to you. This is my name forever, and this is my memorial to all generations. Go and gather the elders of Israel together, and say to them, The Lord God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and then Jacob, appeared to me, saying, I have surely visited you and seen what is done to you in Egypt, and I have said, I will bring you up out of the affliction of Egypt to the land of the Canaanites and the Hittites and the Amorites and the Perizzites and the Hivites and the Jebusites, to a land flowing with milk and honey. Then they will heed your voice, and you shall come, you and the elders of Israel and the king of Egypt, and you shall say to them, The Lord God of the Hebrews has met with us, and now please let us go 3 days' journey into the wilderness, that we may sacrifice to the Lord our God. But I am sure that the king of Egypt will not let you go. No, not even by a mighty hand. So I will stretch out my hand and strike Egypt with all my wonders, which I will do in the mist. And after that he will let you go. And I will give this people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, and it shall be, when you go, that you shall not go empty-handed, but every woman shall ask of their neighbor, namely of her who dwells near her house, articles of silver, articles of gold, and clothing, and you should put them on your sons and your daughters. So you shall plunder the Egyptians. Okay, let's go back and speak about the passage then. So as you heard throughout the passage, the different theme going on about being in bondage to Egypt. Now, what that represents today is us. We're taking this passage and we're relating it to us now, and how we are here, a stranger in a foreign land, and we're trying to get to the promised land. So we're here on earth, and we're trying to get to the promised land of heaven, the land flowing with milk and honey. That is where we belong, is in heaven. So we're a stranger here upon earth, and we've been afflicted and in bondage in Egypt. Now we can step into heaven on earth, and we can have heaven on earth. But we're taking this focal point as, for right now, that we need to go to the land of milk and honey, to the land of heaven. So God appeared to Moses, and he will appear to certain people. And a lot of the times, the people that the Lord appears to help deliver his people, they don't feel qualified for an encounter, and they also don't feel qualified for the assignment of helping the people be set free. So Moses here is asking, how are they really going to listen to me? And how are they really going to think that this really happened to me, that I had a visitation by God, and it really happened to me? And when I go to talk to anybody else, how are they going to listen to me and believe me? And what am I even going to say your name is? And God spoke that, I am who I am. Say that to the people. I am who I am. Basically, really saying, like, I am the real God. Just let them know I am the real God. I am that I am, the one always that did everything. That's who I am. And God was promising the covenant that he had with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the same covenant. To Moses, he was like, remember the covenant. I'm still working on this covenant for you. And I still promise this covenant to send you to this land of milk and honey, which is the same covenant we're working with today. We're working on going into the land of milk and honey, the land of promises, what he's promised us, in our daily lives on earth, and what he's promised us as we go to heaven. Whether we go to heaven on earth, or we go to heaven as in heaven when we die, the same reality exists, that people are living hell on earth today, or they can be living in heaven on earth. They can be provided for supernaturally, protected. They can have God with them, walking with them, heaven on earth, or they can be in hell on earth, in bondage to demons, walking with Satan. They can be in literal hell. So I don't know where you feel like you're at right now, but I guarantee you, wherever you feel like you're at, that's where you're at. Spiritually, we function in spirit, all of us. And although we recognize it or not, we know where we are. We have dreams and fantasies, and we have daydreams, and we have thoughts, and we have all these things that show us where we are. We might be, if we're captive to our thoughts, then that is showing us like the literal hell that we're in, the bondages that we're in. And that's why these people were crying out. They were in all of these bondages to the earth dimensions, to the earth realms, to the God of the world here, Satan, that's ruling and reigning and trying to keep God's people in bondage on the earth. And these different levels of densities on the earth, the gravity pools and the poisons and all the pollutants and everything that they're trapping us in on the earth realms. But if you live in the heaven realms, you start to get heavenly atmospheres, heavenly portals. Open heaven starts to open up over your life, where you're not living in the world's densities. It's way different. You feel way lighter. You can breathe. It feels like you're walking on air in heaven on earth. So there's two different realms, and then there's going from bondage to freedom. And that is why the whole thing with Moses, God was telling Moses, I've heard the people in bondage. Just like he's telling you today. I've heard your cry. I've heard you in bondage to the earth realms. And I want my people to be let go. I want them in heaven realms. I want them in heaven. I want them out of hell and into heaven. And he wants these people like Moses, these deliverers, to show the way. These people that have had a God encounter and an experience with God, that others may not believe them at all. And Moses is even afraid. He's like, how are these people going to believe me? I've had a God encounter. And who am I even going to say your name is, God? And God says, just say I am who I am. Like, everybody will know that means, like, I am the one. I am God. I am that I am. I am God. That's who you say I am. I am that I am. The ancient one, the all-powerful one, the creator, the one that made you. And God just wants Moses to go forth and be this deliverer for his people. And he says that it's not going to be easy. That this Pharaoh guy, he will not let the people go. And even with a mighty hand, he won't let the people go. So God's going to have to stretch out his hand and strike the whole country of Egypt with all these wonders. And then he's saying that he's assuring Moses that it will happen, that the people are let go, and that it will happen also that you will leave with all of this wealth. You will plunder the Egyptians. All of this stuff that kept you, the people that kept you in bondage and was basically keeping you in slavery and eating the fruits of your labors. Like, you work every day. You're working every day and you're not getting a good paycheck out of it. You're having to pay all these bills that really take away your whole paycheck, and you're not able to enjoy the fruits of your labor. You're basically a slave right now in America, and that's what it means. You know, that, or wherever you're at, you're a slave to money and a slave to the system, on how the system is using you as a slave. I mean, some jobs are worse than others. I remember some jobs I literally felt like a slave. I was feeling like a slave in some jobs. But the system on earth and the way it's set up, they literally slave you. And then God is saying, though, when you get out of this slavery, He's going to make sure you have the wealth of the world. Now, basically saying when you step into heaven realms and God is providing for you, you're going to have the wealth of the world. And then we carry on to say, then Moses answered and said, but suppose they will not believe me or listen to my voice. Suppose they say, the Lord has not appeared to you. So the Lord said to them, what is that in your hand? He said, a rod. And he said, cast it to the ground. So he cast it to the ground, and it became a serpent, and Moses fled from it. Then the Lord said to Moses, reach out your hand and take it by the tail. And he reached out his hand and caught it, and it became a rod in his hand again. That they may believe that the Lord God of their fathers and God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob has appeared to you. Furthermore, the Lord said to them, now put your hand in your bosom. And he put his hand in his bosom, and when he took it out, behold, his hand was leprous like snow. And he said, put your hand in your bosom again. So he put his hand in his bosom again and drew it out of his bosom, and behold, it was restored like his other flesh. Then it will be, if they do not believe you, nor heed the message of the first sign, then they may believe the message of the other sign. And it shall be, if they do not believe even these two signs, or listen to your voice, then they shall take water from the river and pour it on the dry land. The water which you take from the river will become blood on the dry land. So Moses is saying, if they don't believe me, what happens next? You know, that's a lot of people, like, they have God encounters and they tell people, and people just don't believe them. But Moses was getting really like, God, what do I do if they don't believe me? And God was saying, I'm sending you signs and wonders. I'm sending you things to show that you can be believed. And that's what God does even today. Like, if God is with someone, like he was with Moses, and he sends Moses out to do a certain mission and an assignment, and we are all like, God, how are the people going to believe us that you sent us? You sent us forth. And God is saying, I'm going to give you these signs and wonders. And it makes it very specific on what they are, and tells Moses, so if this happens, do this. If this happens, do this. Then Moses said to the Lord, O my Lord, I am not eloquent, neither before nor since you have spoken to your servant, but I am slow of speech and slow of tongue. So Moses was like, I'm not even qualified to really talk to these people. I don't have a good language. People can't understand me. So the Lord said to him, who has made man's mouth? Or who has made may the mute, the deaf, the seeing, or the blind. Have not I the Lord? Now therefore go, and I will be with your mouth and teach you what you will say. Basically saying, I made your mouth. I made these people with problems. I've made people. And he made Moses like that. But he said, oh my Lord, please send someone else. Basically, send by the hand of whomever else you may send, because he just didn't like his deficiencies, and he didn't want to go to the people with deficiencies, even though the Lord made him that way. So the anger of the Lord was kindled against Moses, because he's creator. He made him that way, and he said go, and Moses had a problem with it. And he said, is not Aaron the Levite your brother? I know that he can speak well, and look, he is coming out to meet you. When he meets you, he will be glad in his heart. Now you shall speak to him and put the words in his mouth, and I will be with you. I will be with your mouth and with his mouth. So I'll be with both of you, and you can have a little buddy that can help speak for you, named Aaron. And I will teach you what you shall do. So he shall be your spokesman to the people, and he himself shall be your mouth for you, and he shall be to him as God. And you shall take the rod in your hand with which you shall do the signs. So God was saying, I'm giving you this little buddy Aaron, since you have a problem speaking and you feel like you can't. And I'm also giving you this rod in your hand to do signs with. So he gave him these things for the assignment that he needed Moses to do, which was deliver the people out of bondage. And I'm going to stop right there, and we're going to carry on later. But I wanted to talk to you personally about where we're starting. So we're starting here because this is really where we're starting with each other, is in the bondage of the earth realms and needing to get over to the heavenly realms. So my ministry is heaven on my earth, and there's lots of things about heaven on earth in the Bible, but we're going to focus here because the people are in a lot of bondage, and basically they need help to be delivered. And I'm here kind of as a Moses character right now to help deliver the people. Now, anybody can help be a Moses. Anybody that's had a God encounter where God has spoke to them and sent them forth and said, I want you to do this and free the people in this way or that way, okay? So I'm no one special. I'm just sent here to help you this very day get out of the bondage of the system and the bondage of the world and the demonic bondage. So this is kind of my Bible study today, talking about covenant, where we do have a covenant with the Lord, a covenant that if you recognize it, you can walk in it and be brought out. So that's what we're taking a hold of. We want to be with God. We want to be his people, and we want him to take us out and deliver us of all these strongholds, of all these things tying us down, holding us back, keeping us in bondage. And we want to go into more of the heaven realms where we can be protected and provided for by God in a land of milk and honey, where it's amazing. It's everything that we want and need in life, everything that we've thought about, everything promised to us in life since the beginning of time, and plus the inheritance, the God inheritance of heaven, everything that we would inherit in heaven, whether we do inherit inherit it in heaven, or where we tap into inheriting it on earth today, and we pull down heaven from earth, and we tap into those open heavens and start pulling down the wealth the wealth that not only the enemy captured, and we'll get that wealth back from all the bondage, the wealth of the slavery of all of our years that we've been in slavery working, the fruit of that being dropped down into our lives, that wealth, but also the wealth of the inheritance of the saints through the Bible, through Jesus Christ dying on the cross, and us believing in Jesus. We're going to tap into that inheritance too. We're going to tap into all of the promised lands of the milk and honey. And just recognizing right now the covenant made to us to walk into that. And also recognizing that we need to walk it out. We need to walk out this journey. And I'm here today to walk out this journey with you as a messenger from God to deliver the people out of the hands of Pharaoh, and to pretty much stand on your behalf to say, let my people go. Let my people go. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to step into this journey for a little while. And I'll be on this honestly every day until it's done, until we really walk it out. And I'll be doing prayers with you every day until some of these things get off of you and out of your life, and you can start walking in freedom and start getting your inheritance back. Well, I guess I'm going to stop it right here and go into prayers a little later with you.